For more than a century, the Clovis culture stood at the center of America's origin story, presented in textbooks, museums, and documentaries as the first humans to enter the continent near the end of the last ice age, skilled big-game hunters who crossed a land bridge from Siberia and spread rapidly across North America, leaving behind their distinctive fluted stone points as a signature of humanity's earliest footprint in the New World. And for decades, this narrative felt settled, even comfortable, until a single DNA discovery quietly but decisively forced scientists to rethink nearly everything they thought they knew about who the first Americans really were and how the continent was populated. The breakthrough came when researchers were finally able to extract and analyze ancient DNA from the remains of a Clovis-associated child discovered at the Anzac site in Montana, dated to roughly 12,600 years ago, a rare and precious find because organic material from that era almost never survives. And according to peer-reviewed genetic studies, this individual's genome provided the first direct biological link between Clovis people and living Native American populations, confirming that Clovis were not some mysterious vanished group, but were ancestrally connected to modern indigenous peoples, a finding that reshaped conversations not only in archaeology, but also in anthropology and native history. Yet the DNA did something even more disruptive than confirming ancestry, because it also revealed that Clovis people were not the first Americans in the way scientists once assumed, instead appearing as descendants of earlier populations who had already entered the continent, meaning Clovis culture represented an innovation or expansion, not the original migration. And this insight aligned with growing archaeological evidence from sites across North and South America that predate Clovis tools, including locations in Texas, Florida, Oregon, and even Chile, where Monteverde has long suggested human presence at least 1,000 years earlier. What made the Clovis DNA discovery so powerful was that it unified genetics with archaeology at a moment when the old Clovis first model was already under strain, offering a biological explanation for why earlier sites existed and why Clovis technology appeared suddenly and spread so rapidly. Because rather than marking the arrival of the first humans, Clovis may have been a highly successful cultural adaptation developed by people already living on the continent, optimized for hunting Ice Age megafauna during a narrow window of climatic opportunity. According to many researchers, the genetic data suggests a complex migration story involving an ancestral population that split from Asian groups, likely lingered in Beringia during glacial conditions, and then dispersed southward in multiple waves once ice sheets began to retreat, with some groups moving rapidly along coastal routes while others traveled inland, a scenario that explains the deep genetic continuity among indigenous peoples across the Americas, while still allowing for regional diversity and technological variation. Importantly, the Clovis child's DNA also showed closer genetic ties to Central and South American indigenous groups than to some northern populations, a result that surprised many scientists and challenged the assumption that migration simply flowed from north to south in a linear fashion, instead suggesting early population movements were fast, dynamic, and far more interconnected than previously believed. This discovery has also influenced how researchers interpret Clovis tools themselves, reframing them not as evidence of the first human ingenuity in the Americas, but as part of an ongoing cultural conversation among Ice Age communities, with ideas, skills, and technologies spreading through social networks rather than being introduced by a single founding group. Some experts argue that this perspective better explains why Clovis points appear across such a vast geographic area in a relatively short time, while others caution that genetics alone cannot answer every archaeological question, emphasizing the need to integrate DNA evidence with careful excavation and indigenous oral histories, a view that is increasingly shaping modern research ethics and collaboration. Beyond the science, the Clovis DNA discovery has had profound cultural implications, reinforcing what many native communities have long maintained, that their ancestors have deep roots in the Americas that cannot be reduced to a simple recent migration story. And today, many archaeologists acknowledge that future breakthroughs will depend on respectful partnerships with indigenous nations, transparent research practices, and a willingness to let multiple lines of evidence guide the narrative. In the end, this single DNA discovery did not just tweak a timeline or revise a footnote. It fundamentally transformed our understanding of America's earliest humans, revealing a past that is older, richer, and more complex than the tidy stories once told, and reminding us that history is not fixed in stone, even when stone tools are all that remain. And that's something worth remembering the next time we think we've finally solved the mystery of where we come from.